BMNR has quickly become one of my favorite stocks that I've been accumulating recently, along with Nebius. And in the case of BMNR, it's down 20% in the past week alone. And a couple days ago, I shared my full position in options and shares of BMNR. And in this video, I want to expand on that and talk a little bit about where I think this is going, share some posts and some news articles with you, and also talk a little bit about my position going forward. Let's jump right in. Okay, so as we can see here, BMNR is down about 20% in the past week alone to $49. If we look at the past month, it's about flat. It went as high as $60. I think it went $64 intraday before dropping back to 49. Of course, this is something that's very volatile. In the past 3 months, of course, it is a completely different story. And here I said I'm finally done accumulating BMNR. In total, I own cash secured puts for October 3rd. I have five of those open at $50 a share. And I have five cash secured puts for $55 a share. I have January 2027 spreads for $70 and $100. So a spread is basically where I buy a call option for $70 and I sell the call option for $100. And of course, I get paid to sell the $100 and I pay to buy the $70. So I only pay the difference. But by doing that, I'm limiting myself to that difference in upside. So that $30 difference in upside between 70 and 100. I also own 1,100 shares and I closed all of my covered calls. I did close them a little bit early because BMNR continued to fall. But the fact of the matter is that I want to be writing covered calls on these shares. I just don't want to be doing it when the stock is at $49 and then going down every day. So once we get somewhat of a reversal, then I'll probably be opening more covered calls on the stock. And I also opened this position, two cash secured puts at $70 for November 21st. Now you might be thinking this is absolutely crazy. For me to do this, I got paid $22.18 for those. So about 4 grand. The break even, however, for this super crazy in the money cash secured put play is $47. So I haven't even hit my break even after the stock has fallen 20%. And granted, this is on November 21st. And not to mention that my cost basis on these shares is about $45 a share. So even if this does get hit in November 21st, then I will still, slightly be adding to my cost basis. It won't be anything crazy though, because I'm already at 45 and my break even is around 47.80, right? You take $70 minus 22.18, and that's where you get your break even price. Now, there's multiple reasons why I'm bullish on this. And yes, I said here I'm finally done accumulating BMNR, but at the end of this video, I also want to talk about scenarios at which I would consider buying more BMNR. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I'm bullish in the months going forward. First of all, is that not only is BMNR the largest Ethereum treasury out there, but they're also emerging as the clear leader in their pace of accumulation. So here is a post from September 24th, and you can see the Ethereum treasury company's holdings per company. And the BMNR right now is just the blue line that's continuously adding more and more and more at a faster pace than SBET, at a faster pace than ETHZilla, at a faster pace than all of these other ones. And even all of these other ones combined, I might dare to say, because they are just accumulating every single week, stair stepping upwards in their holdings of Ethereum. And that's something very bullish, right? Because if you're bullish on the underlying Ethereum, BMNR is a leveraged bet on that. There's also an interesting piece here. BMNR flipped MicroStrategy as the most liquid crypto treasury. This is absolutely insane when you think about it because of the market cap differences between these companies. This is a post from September 22nd. You can see the top 5 most liquid crypto treasury names. This is Blockworks that's reporting it. And you can see bitmine here, $3.63 billion in daily trading volume. MicroStrategy about $3 billion, and so on and so forth. And you might be saying, yeah, of course, but SBET is the third. But look at the difference in trading volume. SBET is doing a tenth of what BMNR is doing in daily trading volume, right? So that's something to keep in mind, that really for institutional investors, there's only two main names. There's MicroStrategy if you want to go into Bitcoin, and there's BMNR if you want to go into Ethereum, because every other name gets a fraction of the trading volume when compared to those two names. So that's something also incredibly bullish, because if you're looking at treasury companies, why would you buy any other treasury company when in reality, this is a very clear sign from institutions saying, well, BMNR is really the only game in town. This is something that Tom Lee was saying in previous interviews from his conversations with institutional clients. BMNR is really the only realistic crypto treasury bet for Ethereum exposure. So this is really strong signal. Now, the other thing that I covered in a previous video is that BMNR raised more money. And this is actually interesting, right? Because of the timing of this raise. Investors purchased over 5 million shares of BMNR at $70 a share, which was 14% premium to last Friday's closing price of $61. Well, all of a sudden, BMNR is at $49, making it an even bigger discount. And Tom Lee and BMNR, of course, bought more Ethereum with the proceeds of that sale. So that was an extra premium, and that was a nice market timing from Tom Lee and the entire team. And of course, we know that there's seasonality with regards to crypto, but the point is, it's now much cheaper today than it was a week ago when they raised this money at a 14% premium nonetheless. So here you can see their accumulation. They're about 2.4 million ETH to their 6 million ETH accumulation target. They are less than halfway there, and they've been accumulating much more. So let's now jump into some news. Well, here you have the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which announced that they're launching an initiative to allow stablecoins as tokenized collateral for US derivatives markets. This will unlock massive liquidity and mainstream adoption for crypto. Public input open until October 20th. So, of course, more acceptance is better. The CFTC is a huge market that's going to be unlocked for tokenization. And the other piece that I found interesting was this. Well, you see a letter here dated September 22nd talking about this executive order on August 7th for 401ks to be exposed to crypto. So basically, you can have crypto in your retirement accounts. I mean, not only crypto, but also alternative assets in general. But if you think about that, what is that really going to do for Ethereum? What is that going to do for Bitcoin when you now unlock all of the retirement accounts in the US, the 401ks, to be able to invest in alternative assets? So that's something that's obviously very bullish on the horizon. And there's two big pieces here. And you have Tom Lee that's talked about this in an interview before. Here you have Ben Horowitz talking about it. The two drivers of the super cycle for Ethereum, number one is Wall Street adoption of blockchain. And of course, they want a smart contract platform that can actually work. And that Ethereum is the biggest bet there, which we saw from the actual trading volume on Ethereum. And number two is, of course, AI driving the need for this public blockchain. And so you have Ben Horowitz talking about the AI piece and crypto essentially being the missing layer for this, that these two technologies will work in conjunction with one another. And the thing you should take away from this is that institutions are driving more utility through smart contract platforms like Ethereum, and they are going to increase their adoption as a result of that utility layer. Well, that's all well and good, but I've been getting messages like, "Why is this down? I don't know anything about this, and yet it's down in the past week. Are you still holding your position?" I saw a lot of people posting on my previous video because it was posted and then BMNR fell like 20%. And the fact of the matter is, like, I'm still accumulating more. I'm not even considering selling BMNR. I know I said here I'm finally done accumulating, but there is a case to be made. If this does fall under $45 or it gets close to $45, then I'm going to be writing some aggressive cash secured puts because that's my cost basis. And so I would essentially be averaging down at that point. The fact of the matter is that here we are in oversold territory for Ethereum. So here you can see the relative strength index at the bottom here, and the circled pieces are the three big dips that we've had in Ethereum this year. Of course, you had the April crash where you had tariffs. You had a slight dip back in the end of June, and you had this one in September, which marks these three dips in the bottom here on the RSI. And why is this important? Well, it's important because right now we crossed below the RSI territory where we were oversold back in June. And the reason I put this up is because there's many patterns that repeat, that every single time you've gotten to this oversold territory, buyers step in and they drive this higher. And you can see these patterns here. You can see these zones where essentially you break out of this box and it acts as a spring upwards. Now we've completely broken out of this box here. So we're going to see what happens. But there's one piece on the macro for you guys that don't believe in technical analysis. There's one piece on the macro that I think is very, very interesting. And that is the seasonality that's associated with crypto naturally. So you have October here, which of course is something where Bitcoin monthly returns in the month of October increase and have been steadily higher for the last 10 years. If you look at September here, you can see that many of the months of September are red. And by the way, this is for Bitcoin, but many cryptocurrencies are exactly the same because Bitcoin is sort of the rising tide that raises all boats. Most months in September are red. And in fact, if we look at the average, you can see -3% on the average and -3.12% as the median. But if you look at October, the average is plus 22% over here, with almost every single October having been green, except for 2 years where it was red. So seasonal tailwinds are right around the corner. And I think that's going to help, especially when you consider with the fact that we are in oversold territory for Ethereum, especially when you consider with the fact that you're seeing now massive institutional adoption. You're seeing now this alternative assets for 401ks, and you're seeing this massive trading volume for Ethereum here. And not only Ethereum, but BMNR specifically is seeing massive trading volume. It is really the only game in town. And the reason why is because they're the biggest accumulators of Ethereum, and they still have such a long way to go into achieving that 6 million target, because right now they're only about 2.4 million. All of this points in the direction that there is going to be a turnaround in Ethereum, that these pullbacks are not going to last forever. Now, of course, none of that stuff is guaranteed, but the fact of the matter is that these events tend to happen frequently and the patterns form naturally. And as a result, they become self fulfilling prophecies. Now, let's come back to my position here. Well, like I said, I'm done accumulating BMNR for right now. Of course, a lot of these are negative. My position is still positive to a large degree because my cost base is at $45. But I think if I were to buy more BMNR, it would definitely be through cash secured puts. That would be the only way that I would really buy more BMNR. Right now, we're in pre market, so we're going to see what it opens at, but it's Friday, so I'm not holding my breath. I'm really looking for next week for this thing to start bouncing back. Of course, if geopolitical tensions sort of die down a little bit, that's going to be helpful as well. But I would be buying more if this were to fall further. If it falls into like $47, $46, then I'm going to be writing more cash secured puts. And for those cash secured puts, I'm going to be writing them out October or November, even a couple of months into the future. And the reason why is to give myself enough time for this to recover, because I want to be able to completely take advantage of the fact that they're accumulating Ethereum on a weekly basis. So they're going to have more Ethereum in November than they do right now. Number one. Number two, institutions are very slow to move, but when they move in a big volume, in a big way. And I want to give that thesis time to play out. Number three, the seasonality in crypto in general is such that this would go up naturally in the winter months. And of course, as Ethereum, the underlying asset goes up, then BMNR, the treasury company, is going to go up as well because the value is derived from the underlying assets. So that's at a high level, my full position on BMNR. What am I doing with it? Why I'm bullish and why I think there's positive catalysts going forward in the coming months. Please do your own homework, do your own due diligence. Let me know what you think. BMNR is now a larger position of mine. It's still single digit percentages, but it's one of the larger ones. And for me, again, it is still something that I'm treating as a swing trade, so to speak. I'm going to keep a position for the long term in BMNR, but most of it I'm treating as a swing trade for me. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. And if you are new here, then definitely consider subscribing to the channel for more, and I'll see you in the next one.